Let's call this meeting to order. Today is Thursday, January 14th. This is the Parks, Recreation, and Forestry Committee meeting. Right to item 2, approval of minutes from the November 12th, 2015 meeting.
I'll second.
A motion by Tom, second by Jane. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item 3, public comment. Do we have anybody who would like to speak? Okay, great. Just observers. All right, great. We're going to do a little bit of a switch in the agenda. We're going to go to item 5, new business, and we'll move item 4, old business, down one notch, okay? So under new business, item A, we have a 200 block park presentation. We could have Justin do an introduction, and then I'll move over.
Yeah, I'll do a lead-in, and then we'll turn it over to Jason and Bob to kind of talk about the project itself. I did email you some information. I'm sure most of you have seen it, whether it was in the newspaper or online. The Economic Development Board is interested in developing the old News Herald property into a downtown park. They did a survey recently, which I did email you the survey results. I don't know if all of you printed them out, but there was a lot of results, over 300 responses they received. As you can see, the rendering behind John, it's about a half a block in size, containing a stage and a splash pad and several walking paths. I'm not going to speak too much because I know Bob and Jason also want to talk about the project itself too. So at this time, I'll ask Jason and Bob to step forward.
So you just covered it.
I had to give a lead in, so Jason from, what is it now, Department of Services?
Yeah, Director of Development Services.
Development Services, and Bob from EDB.
Yeah, Bob is also the utility manager, but he sits on our Economic Development Board, which is an 8-member board consisting of 5 business sector representatives, one of which is Marshfield Utilities. And then we have 2 alderman representatives on there as well. And for missing the other one, that would be your fill-in. The other 5 are citizen appointments.
So if anybody's looking for reduction in their power or free power, Mr. Trussellini's the guy.
What I handed out before the meeting was a copy of the frequent asked questions as well as the image statement that accompanied the storyboards that were put up throughout the community. The plan that's been put together based upon the direction from the Economic Development Board really strives from a number of conversations that have taken place over a series of years in the community and ultimately was adopted into the Downtown Master Plan in 2014. That Downtown Master Plan called for the creation of a community gathering space within the downtown area to help draw more individuals, more patrons down to the area for different events, but also to encourage them to visit our downtown. So with that, the city had been working to try and get the News Herald property to redevelop over a series of years. Many of you saw it stand vacant for years. And actually, Gannett had listed it for 3 years and had no offers on that property. Then the city stepped in and said, you know, if anyone's going to do it, there was some contamination issues that needed to take place. The city stepped up, purchased the property, and ultimately tore it down. Once the city purchased the property, the board's initial plan on that was to redevelop the property by having another structure be constructed on there. After 2 years of working on that and no real valid proposals coming forward, the board finally said, you know, we need to move forward with another alternative here, which was, we own the property, why don't we look at this as the opportunity for the community gathering space? We've been going around gathering feedback on things, and the board, working with Randy Luth, who is a local landscape architect, put together the concept that you see here. It currently shows a small performance stage with bathrooms on both sides, a paved center area with a splash pad area for children or even adults to run through. In the winter months, that paved area would be froze over for a skating pond, is the thought process behind that. 2 outdoor dining areas, seating areas, large grass area, obviously. The paver area, or the walkway areas, would be constructed wide enough to allow for perhaps vehicles or even those pop-up tents to be set up for like the farmer's market to be held in this place, as well as obviously a variety of events to go along with it as well. Parking obviously has been one of the biggest things that we hear on feedback. The parking in the area right now, currently there is 172 parking stalls. This plan would reduce the parking in the area to 160. However, recent surveys done by the city 2 times in the last 9 months show that the peak demand in this area is 102 parking stalls. So once the Economic Development Board heard that information, they were comfortable moving forward with the plan to go out to public feedback and comments. The survey was conducted. You all received that, and I'm sure you memorized everything that we got there. But the response was supportive from the online survey. Roughly 63% that were in favor of the plan. Others that were either neutral or did not agree with it. And then a litany of written comments that went with it. We also put 6 storyboards up throughout the community. We did it at Ford Financial, BMO Harris, Chestnut Center, the Daily Grind, Rogers Cinema, and the Public Library, which yielded another roughly 50 comments that were written, and then those were typed in and included in the information that was sent to you. From the feedback that was brought back to the board, they considered everything that was there. They were pleased with the responses that came back. And the only 2 changes that the board really thought were valid or needed at this time, and it's not reflected on this plan, was to incorporate perhaps some sort of shade structure that would be over those outdoor dining areas. Maybe a trellis of some sort, or for those that want to sit out there on those hot summer days and enjoy a sandwich or something. And the other one was to equip it so that Wi-Fi was available while people are out there. But as I said, that's not reflected in the plan, and I don't know how we would reflect Wi-Fi in a plan like this. Yeah, well, that's where we got Bobby, because of the utility stuff. Other things that were brought up as far as questions along the way are details that we haven't gotten down to, or the board hasn't gotten down to. Are you going to charge people to rent this space? Does the parking come along with it? Are the parking stalls along the alleyway going to be timed or permitted parking stalls? Things like that are really the decision that needs to be made by the Board of Public Works. But also at the same time, we're going out and we're meeting directly, and it's primarily the board members, meeting directly with all of the business and property owners in this immediate area. So far, we've completed probably 60 to 70% of those, with the goal of having met or attempted to meet with all of those business or property owners before the January 26th council meeting. So far, only one of those meetings has resulted in negative feedback. Everybody else has been acceptable to the plan. So, Bob, do you have?
Yeah, I think it's important to know that we've been getting very positive feedback from the different people we've been talking to around the area. I'd say the results from the survey were excellent. I mean, you get both sides. You get some comments that just some people are against everything, so it didn't matter what it was. But overall, we've been getting a very positive response. Been good.
So we come before you tonight asking, for your feedback on the proposal, but ultimately we would ask you if this body would feel inclined to make a recommendation to at least continue moving forward with exploring this plan. We're not asking for a firm commitment. Like we said, there's still details that have to be worked out, but the approach right now is ultimately to get to the Common Council the 26th of this month. If there is no desire to continue moving forward with this, then we're done. There's no need to continue to look into those details. If there is a desire, then we'll look at the funding options for this. Right now, the plan is estimated that, as shown, it would be about a $1.3 million improvement. We are not anticipating, nor will we be asking the council to fund that entire portion of the project. They do have some money set aside in the CIP, capital improvement plan, for improvements in this area, but it's in the tune of about $200,000. The Economic Development Board has its own set of funds that comes from utility dividends they would put a portion of funds towards that as well. It's estimated about $200,000 as well. So take those two into account. We've got less than $1 million, but a pretty good chunk of this project would be through donations, is what the board is anticipating at this time.
Jason, would you, comments that I've heard, why do we wanna have a park downtown? There's no big stores downtown, so on and so forth. And I'm just repeating, as you know, I sit on the EDB board and I support this. But, you know, people don't understand, they think we should wait until stores come in, or I know why we wanna do that. You guys wanna explain that, please?
Yeah, you say it's kind of the chicken and the egg thing. I mean, you've got to do things downtown that entice people to come down there. As you get more people down here, more events going on, more people get used to going downtown, they're going to start shopping more, hopefully, as part of that, and draw more business downtown. So,
Yeah, majority of it, when it comes to the mom and pop businesses that are located in a downtown, are based upon the environment that is there. And we're trying to create an environment that encourages people to come downtown, that brings the masses down there. As we went through this project, one of the things that we did is, and Randy primarily did this, is he put together the plan. We reached out and spoke with Wausau area. You know, what did the 400 block do for that downtown? We've all been down there, we've all seen it, you know, it's beautiful. We were all probably down there before that park was there, and those buildings were less than desirable. We've learned for some things that if they could do it over, what would they do? One of them was that paved area in the middle. They freeze the center of their park during the winter months, but every spring, they have to replace all of the sod in that area because the damage that is done when people are trying to get out on that green space right away and do events and all that, they just are replacing sod annually. But the important side of it is that the revenues for the retailers in that area have nearly doubled since that park has come into play. New businesses have moved into the area, properties have been turned over because one business that maybe wasn't as a perfect fit in that downtown area is now a demand for a restaurant or a cafe or something like that that's more transient directed. So
one of the concerns too that Jason mentioned was the parking, and with events happening there, naturally there will be a need for more parking in the area. But it's also a lot of the events will be happening in the evening when the business parking is reduced, so I guess we really don't know exactly what that'll look like, but it should be a better utilization of the existing parking.
Another thing that I heard, we're not Wausau. And we, on the Economic Development Board, we're not trying to be exactly like Wausau, but the idea, you guys helped me out on this, but the idea of something that worked for them, and we can do it on a smaller scale. So the idea, you gotta steal ideas from other cities and so on and so forth. And
Yeah, I commend the city leaders who have the vision for this, and I hear community input constantly of we need business downtown, we need stores downtown, we need especially restaurants downtown. And I don't think you get that unless you do something like what Wausau did. That doesn't mean you have to replicate what Wausau did, and we're probably not going to be able to do that here given the population, but it's a step in the right direction, and I think it's a space for people. From a parks perspective, this would be a city park, correct?
that is, I guess it's probably safe to assume, but it's yet to be determined. One of the things that is included in the frequent asked questions is who's going to manage, maintain, and all that. You know, there's the possibility of Main Street Marshfield, there's a possibility of Parks and Rec Department, there's a possibility of Convention and Visitors Bureau, for a variety of things. Obviously, when it comes down to who has the equipment, I'm not gonna say the workforce, because we know the equipment to maintain, mow and all that, that's city. Main Street doesn't have mowers and all that, but those are some of the details that would have to be worked out, John.
Yeah. The other comment that I hear quite a bit is this is in pretty close proximity to Columbia Park.
Yep.
And you know, what does that mean for Columbia Park? Is this going to become a replacement for that stage? Is there thought there as to how these can work together?
Yeah, and that has been talked about quite a bit, because we saw comments to that effect. Certainly there will be events that will take place here that may have taken place at Columbia Park if this wasn't there. There's the Civics Band, I know is one that they talk about, and that, this will be much smaller than the Columbia Park, so they'll more than likely need to stay at the Columbia Park just because of the size. But one thing that most likely will end up here is probably the Vox concerts, because if they do here, they can, and if it rains, they've got, right across the street, they got the Chestnut Center.
Mhm.
So they might be able to work something there. So, you know, as far as how it will affect the events at Columbia Park, I guess it's been discussed. It's really hard to know until it actually happens.
The intention is not to
Right.
take away from Columbia
Mhm.
Park. The other, when we talked about
It's-
this is, you know, and through the downtown master plan, everyone recognizes that Columbia Park is there, but it's not really attached or perceived by those in the community to be attached to the downtown. Mainly because you gotta cross Veterans, and then you also gotta go over the railroad tracks in order to get there. It's also more encompassed into a residential setting. And so to try and create a regularly used, family-orientated space in there might become a little disruptive to the neighborhood. Not to mention, if we wanted to do all of what is shown here, we'd be clear-cutting almost that park in order to make it work. And I think that's part of why people really love Columbia Park, is because of the large canopies that are there.
It's possible that you get, you know, with this enhancing the downtown area and bringing more people down, you might see more activity at Columbia Park as well. You might get more people just used to coming to the downtown area more.
Jason, one of the thoughts that I have as a resident is a quality of life consideration of using this as a pedestrian on foot or on bicycle. And we have some bicycle paths that are close to this, but not linked directly to it.
Yep.
And actually one that's very close that will be running north and south, that's going to be constructed this coming year and completed before December, right? Yes?
Yes.
Yes? Yes. And, yes, yes.
Move this way, bud.
So my thinking is, it would be, if this does move forward, and I support it, if it does, though, I think that some serious consideration should be given to improvement of access through foot traffic and bicycle traffic from our existing trail network. Because it's really, really, really close to a lot of our trails.
Well, I keep looking because
Can't
I
really
know
see it.
that there is plans for bike racks to be included in there. And actually, the different racks that Randy had identified were more artistic looking. It wasn't just your standard bike rack that you would see at like a school or in front of a library. It was more of an art feature as well.
Actually shaped like a bicycle.
Yeah, and so he was looking at some things, but yeah, definitely, and that's also part of the plan, not to get off topic, but with Second Street being redone into a one-way, the thought process is to make that more of a pedestrian corridor that links the library all the way to Steve J. Miller Park eventually. Right now, we're just doing that 2-block segment with that, but this would be kind of the midpoint eventually.
But there is no bike path on that one-way street, correct?
No, there's not.
I think Chestnut's got a bike lane, does it
Yeah.
not? All on the, would you read on here? Yep.
I had a question on, has there been any discussion about the back side of the alleyway that would be facing and the businesses
Yep.
and
The facade improvement program, as part of this, the Economic Development Board also reinstated the downtown facade improvement program, expanded that program so that the rear facades are now eligible, and obviously this would be a prime block for that. Information was sent out directly to all of the property owners downtown, as we do every year with that program. But in meeting with each of these business or property owners, we have strongly encouraged them to consider that. And we know 2 of them for sure are definitely planning to submit applications. I won't say who because we're on right now, but there are definitely 2 that are, I think, are very visible and also very traffic orientated as far as the backside of their buildings.
on the So, is this a one-way alleyway between
Yep,
the back of buildings?
all of the alleys downtown.
Right, so I mean, would it stay that way? Are
Yes.
you saying? So, would it stay the
It's,
same direction?
They're all southbound, yep,
Okay.
they all go southbound.
Okay.
Any other questions? Discussion?
I have one thing to say.
Yep.
My only concern is where the maintenance of this falls, with the budget and with the employees, if it is a city-owned park. That's my concern. It's a very big concern for me.
Justin did bring that up at
You
the
know.
meeting. I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I'm putting you on the spot anyway.
No, it's-
But he did, he mentioned that when we were talking about this, that
Right.
currently, right now, he doesn't really have the staff to do it.
Right.
But like Jason said, everything's being looked at on how that's gonna be done. So I don't think it's a big issue now, because I think it will be worked out somehow. Either he's gonna get more staff, or other entities are gonna jump in and it's gonna be hired out or something.
Yeah, at this point, I don't wanna concern myself too much with maintenance, because it is just a rendering and a concept. But if this plan were to move forward, I see we would definitely need to address a lot of things, because we don't have staff. It's just because of its location and its nature. It's not like some of our other parks that we just cut grass at and they have trees. Like Columbia, we don't have as much amenities. It's not built like this, so it's a lot more maintenance. Snow operations, I can see a lot of issues right now of trying to get snow, because you can't put it anywhere. If there's vegetation throughout the park, you can't push it on the street, and you can't push it on top of trees, so where's it gotta go? There's some stuff that we'd have to figure out, but I'm not gonna concern myself with that until we get to almost final design. Once that starts talking about final design, then we would have to figure out what we're gonna do with maintenance.
Okay. Thank you.
So at this point, I think I would entertain a motion to possibly move forward with the concept of this, that we would endorse as a committee the concept of this downtown green space and park.
I would make the motion, but being on the EDB board, I'd prefer somebody else to make it. I fully support it, though.
I can make that motion. I'd like to make the motion that we, as Park and Rec Committee, endorse the concept of this, what do you call it, the 200 block park concept, and we want to see it move forward in the planning stages.
And I'll second that motion.
You can paraphrase that,
All right. So I have a motion and a second. And any more discussion? I think it's a great idea. Excellent vision. I think it fits really well with the recent Second Street corridor planning and upcoming project. And I think it'll be good for Marshfield, for downtown. So, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Jason. Old business.
Do you want to go back to old business?
There's no one else here.
Sure.
besides the committee.
Sure. All right, we're going back to item 4 on the agenda, old business, and the run walk bike events at Wildwood Park and Zoo that we began discussion on last meeting in November. Seems like a long time ago too, by the way.
It wasn't like that.
I
So Justin,
At our last meeting, we discussed mostly the run-walk events. It was called run-walk bike events, but there's no biking events there. They're run-walk events, and we worked with our GIS department on some different designs and routes. And we came up with a few options, and I think you should have maps of all of the options in front of you. The biggest challenge was our 5K route. There's just no way it can actually do a 5K route inside the park, whether you go through the core zoo or not. There's just not enough pathway available in the park. The cross-country teams can do it, but they run off-road, and they can kind of go wherever they want to. Or run bike event, you want it on some sort of hard surface for the strollers and people that might be in wheelchairs or what have you. So this route starts just outside Wildwood Station and then goes around the upper pond, around the bison and elk prairie, and then it takes a right. There's a pathway that kind of heads to the Armory building, National Guard Armory building, and then it'll take 29th and then cut across behind Hotel Marshfield, then out to Central Avenue, then back to that park entrance and then back around, and it'll end up back at the Wildwood Station. So that would give you a full 5K route, where I'm assuming most, if not all, the other walks and runs that were at the park were never really a full 5K. They were probably just a 1 mile or just a route around, and they were more leisurely, not really a strict 5K. I talked to a couple of user groups, and they were interested in more of a 5K route to get those people who really wanted to do the 5K. Sounds like there's a lot of people who kind of do that. They're called couch to 5K run walks. So there's more emphasis on trying to get the full 5K walk run. So that could be the 5K route, and then we did the 2 mile route, which is a little bit easy. Believe it or not, a 2 mile was the easiest one, and then 1 mile was a little bit more of a challenge. It was more of a loop, but if they wanted to do a 1 mile route. This way, if we just pick the routes and they are what they are, when the user groups come, we can tell them. They don't always have the ability to know how to figure it out, or GIS to measure things. That way Ben knows what to do if we're setting up barricades or where barricades are, so he doesn't always have to worry about what route they're gonna use or what route they may use. This way we just have a 1 mile, 2 mile, and a 5K route. We would have to work with probably Public Works on the route itself for the 5K to make sure we can use 29th and those other streets, because we're going on the streets at that point, and making sure it's okay with them. I don't foresee a lot of issues with that route, being that it's not a through street. 29th doesn't have a lot of traffic, so it does give our user groups that route opportunity. Other thing discussed, but we haven't decided, was whether we should treat these like the other rentals, whether it's like a birthday party or a family reunion, whether we want these run walk groups to rent Wildwood Station, whether they should rent the whole building or half the building. We have a couple options for usage, just so we're consistent on our user groups. Kelly and I have been going back and forth, but it's kind of tough because you don't want to make them rent the whole building and disenfranchise them, and like they can't afford it or something. At the same time, you don't want to make them rent half the building and not occupy the other half that's not occupied, and then someone else sees that it wasn't being used, like, oh, I really wanted to use that building or that half of that building too for their event. So it's kind of a mixed feelings here. You don't want to, nor do you want that person that's doing like a family reunion to show up, and then you got a 5K walk run with 350 people on the other side of it. So that's a different experience too. So I don't know if I don't have an answer, but I'll turn it over to you guys for any feedback.
Any questions? Rich?
I'll start off with a comment.
I think we should treat the large run walk events differently than a family reunion or a birthday party. I guess I won't elaborate too much on that, but I think there should be some separation. And I don't think it has to be a huge monetary difference, but I think they do need to, because they are different. They're events where there's a large number of people. They're using more resources of the park, so I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, from my perspective, I did take a look at the list and how and what buildings they were renting during all of the events in the past. And it looked to me like, for the most part, they were renting the whole pavilion. And I think the biggest concern here is if you have a fairly large event and they're only using half the building and there's a birthday party next door, you know, and the parking's an issue and people all around is an issue, that would be unfair for the birthday party. So I think we could require that they rent the whole pavilion. And I'm not, I mean, by looking at, beyond that, I don't think, you know, we can really go there, you know, where we say you have to rent every pavilion throughout the park. You know, I mean,
Right.
the largest pavilion seems to be like the home base for this type of thing. And I think that would be going far enough. And they're gonna, if they need the space, rent the other ones.
Right. And some do rent multiple shelters or buildings.
Yep. Right.
Just depends on the size of their run walks, and a lot of times they don't know how many people will show. A lot of it's weather dependent. If you have beautiful weather, you're definitely gonna get more. If it's crummy weather, you're not gonna get as much as you probably anticipated.
Yeah. So, but again, by looking back at it, I don't think that would be a very big impact on these run walks at all. And I think it would prevent any type of bad feelings in the future.
Right.
Yeah.
I really like the paths that are laid out there.
Yeah.
I think that's a real key, so everybody's gonna be pretty much on the same area depending on the night.
Right, I agree.
We've accomplished, I think, what we wanted to, right? We're giving people options, and we're keeping them out of the zoo. You know, and I think that's, you know, that'll make staff happy, that'll make the animals happy. You know, and for the most part, a defined route for these people should make them happy as well, so I think it's a win-win.
Good.
I think, at this point, unless there's any more discussion or questions, I would entertain a motion, to, yep.
John, the 5K, that excludes the cross-country teams, like the high school cross-country teams, I assume? Because,
That's just different. They don't wanna
yeah.
run these paths, so.
yeah, the other consideration for a 5K, and this, it might come into play with 5Ks that the public is experiencing. With this route, the start of that route is, I'm assuming, near the new restrooms by the playground. Is that about right?
That's correct.
And going down that asphalt path to the west. And if you have 100, 100, 200 participants, is that going to be too much of a bottleneck? I'm thinking of watching cross-country races that start in the upper left-hand corner of our map, up there on the along the upper pond, and the massive sea of people that take off at the beginning. And would those groups be unhappy with a bottlenecking effect, or are they not that large of groups yet?
It's a good question. I've never participated in a run walk. I don't know if anyone else has done a run walk. Allie, have you?
At the zoo?
Yeah, at the zoo or even at the park.
Well, we used to do the Heart Walk, and that would go around. And there's always, sidewalk issues and things like that. But most people, if it's a run walk, you just, okay, now's my move to go past this group ahead of me. So when it's a run walk, they're pretty cognizant. Now, if you're talking about like a competitive 5K, if it's near that second half, you're fine, because the leaders are already made their way, and then there's the rest of us that come.
Oh, I
that are
thought
just-
you were saying you were
that
in
are-
the lead.
That are just happy with
You were in the
finishing. Nope. No. I wait for them to just jump
That's a
ahead.
good point, Krista. I think it depends on everyone's gonna be different, and you may have some real competitive individuals, and there might be a bottleneck, but I guess those run walkers who are very competitive, they'll also know which ones they wanna participate in and which ones they don't because of bottleneck issues.
You'll get feedback, I suppose, from the different user groups as well.
Like, and maybe tweak this in the future.
The actual trail itself in that starting area, that's the widest trail we have. So a different starting location would just mean probably a smaller spot to start. 'Cause that's a 12-foot, I want to say, path there.
Right.
Where the other places, the sidewalks are 5 foot or less, so.
Right, good point.
Okay. Do I have a motion? Okay. How would you like that motion worded, Tom?
That's what I was
Like my friend here says, however you would like to word it to approve it.
What are we approving? Are we approving just the 3 maps, or are we approving?
This is gonna be a little bit of a tricky motion.
Yeah.
That's why I said that.
I think we need to endorse the routes, and then we also need to, basically in policy, come up with wording to require that the whole pavilion be rented for one of these 5K or whatever run walk events.
Can I just interject? Some of them start really small with 25 people. I think we're doing a disservice to the group that's trying to get a walk started, as well as the other group on the other side that would like to use the Wildwood Station. And typically a run walk is 9:30 in the morning, and by 11 o'clock they're gone. I'm a little concerned about backlash on our department when somebody wanted to have a family reunion down there, and they went down there at noon and had one of the small shelters, and there's nothing in the Wildwood Station. So that's the only thing that I think we need to just be a little bit careful about as to how we.
How many are like that, Kelly? Because when I looked back at the spreadsheet that showed the events, I didn't see. I thought most of them rented the pavilion.
I know that the breastfeeding walk started out very small. They're probably at 50 to 75 right now, but still not a big enough impact to say you need to rent the whole thing. So maybe we say for those events that are over 100 people, and again, Justin and I have talked about how do you make sure that are people going to tell you they're only 100, or are people going to tell you they're, and I think if we, as we're renting the facility, if we say to people, here's the reason we're asking these questions, is because of the impact on parking for the person who's there. We talked a little bit about the fact that when the run is in there, you can see both sides and say to the other person, and we usually do, we'll usually say, oh, there's a run that's happening out of the other side, just so you're aware. Parking up until about 11 or 12 could be a little bit hard, and usually they'll say, oh, we're going to come in at 10, we're not having people come till noon, we'll be fine. So,
What would your recommendation be?
I don't know.
The other option would be the unoccupied rate. We do have an unoccupied rate, so if we make them reserve Wildwood Station, it's $90. And if they didn't want to rent out the whole thing for 180, was it 180 or 90? 180. They could just we'd require them to rent out the other side for 45 instead of the whole 90, so half of that.
I was gonna ask in my motion to be to approve the pass and to be somewhat flexible this year on the wording for renting this out, and we could gather information from the groups. I think that should be part of it when they come down. How many people? So you get some idea, and that might cover some of the things that Kelly's saying. Now, certainly they could say that they're gonna have a lot less, but, we could sort of keep an eye on it, and get information. I don't think we want to rush into it and do something that could hurt somebody.
So at this point, then, no change in policy, but analyze this over the next year.
Is that okay with you, Justin?
Over the
Yeah,
next.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I just wanted to bring it to the committee's attention that we have an increase in run walks, and we've had some challenges, whether it's going to the zoo or just trying to coordinate where all these groups are kind of going, and I think we've addressed that with the committee, and we can evaluate as staff for 2016, and then maybe in 17 come back and give an actual, ask for a motion or a policy change, but.
So that is my motion to approve the paths here that we've seen, and then to evaluate, to get information to possibly edit this thing for next year.
Okay. We have a motion by Tom. Second by Ally. Any discussion or questions beyond this? Just one, you're good with all these, right, Ben? Yeah, okay. I assumed you guys came up with this together. Okay, good.
Can you approve the fees too, or the fees?
That'll be, later and see, you get to approve all the fees.
Oh, okay. Yep, okay. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? That motion carries. We can go on to, back to new business. We're jumping around a little bit. We're on to item B in new business. This is a concession vending request at Pickle Pond. Justin will present this.
Yeah, in your packet, you have a copy of an email I received from December 3rd from a Jay Hardwood, who inquired about selling, just, I would assume popcorn and hot chocolate items at Pickle Pond, if and when Pickle Pond ice skating would open. I know in the past, this committee has weighed in on whether we allowed outside organizations or groups to come into parks and sell products. So I thought it was fitting to bring this item back to the committee for consideration. Just as you know, December was not a very good month for ice skating, and just recently, we started making ice this week. We're hoping that by Friday, Pickle Pond is up and operating.
There was about 6 people on it when I went by skating.
Yeah, so we'll continue to make ice this week, and hopefully by Friday, we have a good surface for skating for the rest of the year. So I wanted to bring it to the committee's attention to see if they wanted to make an action or decision on this, or not.
And maybe I'll just, is it okay if I read the email?
Yeah.
That was sent to you, and this is the request. Hi Justin, my name is Jay Harwood, and I'm a licensed kettle corn food vendor for the city. I was wondering if I would be able to vend kettle corn and hot chocolate periodically throughout the winter at Pickle Pond. My vending trailer is small, and I could set up near the entrance. Please let me know your thoughts on this. Thank you for your time. And again, as Justin mentioned, these things have come to us before. This one seems to be narrowly focused on only Pickle Pond, not all parks like the last one that we considered. So at this point, I guess we'd open it up for discussion, questions. Tom?
I'm against this. I think we're opening a can of worms. One thing I think, to be fair to people, you'd almost have to advertise, because I'm sure there's other people that would want to do the same things, and then how do you decide who's going to get it? Now, this individual, I don't know this person, I know of them. I don't see an issue with that part of it, but I think it's something that we don't want to do at this time. Trash has always been another thing on that. That's one of the things when we opened the zoo store down there. I know Ed had mentioned that just sort of watch for papers and stuff, and we do that. But is that going to be at a place like this? And the other thing, I just don't see that it's going to do well, first of all, but I just think there's a lot more to it than the surface there.
I just think I agree. I feel we need to be consistent across the board. I know we've denied it in the past, and if we would allow this, what's not to say that someone else is gonna come in and say, I want to go to, I'm trying to think of a park off the hand, Grant Mini Park, and I want to park my smoothie maker ice cream machine there in the summer and 3 days a week and get the medical center crowd, security health plan crowd, Hope Lodge crowd. And if we deny this and then we allow that, or we allow this and deny that, I feel it needs to be consistent and across the board. And I also pulled notes, this is probably going a little bit further. In 2010, someone presented a request to allow St. John's Youth Group to sell concessions at Columbia Park during the community band concerts. So would we exclude all that together, like a youth group that wants to come in and sell concessions? We would make that, like if you're a private vendor or a youth group, we nix the whole thing totally. I mean, I just feel we need to be consistent. Because I think you're right, we're opening can of worms.
I think at the soccer field, there's a concession stand there, is there not? So, I think that's different. Hackman Field is another one. that's got concession stands right in there, but you start bringing portable ones in, I agree with Jane, and, you know, we did that on a trial basis, and I had reservations about that even at Columbia Park, when we allowed that, it was somebody trying to raise money for a trip, and they're all good things that people are trying to raise the money for, but again, I think you owe it to the people to advertise that you're gonna accept applications or whatever, because there's other ones that would do the same thing, and I just think it'd be tough.
So, Justin, we don't really have an action to take on this. We did ask Mr. Harwood to come.
Yeah.
We invited him to come, and, you know, just in case there were questions, and he could, you know, voice his concerns and give us his presentation, but he's not here. Yep, Rich?
So he has a permit from the city, I mean, he has a seller's permit,
That's what his email, it must be a vendor's license.
or a vendor's license.
Yeah.
So could he set up anywhere, I mean, I don't know much about a vendor's license, does that give him, could he set up along a street? You know, could
I
he?
feel like this vendor, sorry to interject, but was like when we had the Main Street, like Thursdays, like some vendors would set up on the street.
Yeah, I guess I don't know what that permit allows, and I'm leaning towards,
But that's an event, Ally, that's what's different.
I don't know if we haven't had a
Okay.
problem. I mean, we're saying, well, maybe yes, it could be this or that. I mean, we're without knowing. I mean, I would be more pro business and say, hey, it's somebody, you know, trying to earn a living, and it may be something that the people that are using Pickle Pond, even if there's not a lot, that may enjoy, you know, having that. So I would lean towards, you know, see how it goes. For how much it's used and the short time of year, I would lean towards, let's say yes, and say, well, you know, we don't have to, we're not approving it, but we're kind of giving a nod, and you know, if there's no problems, and I don't think all of a sudden we're gonna get a flurry of just all these requests, like, well, I saw so and so. There's not that many vendors, I don't think, that have a permit for the city. So I don't know, and the reason I asked about what his permit would allow is because, I mean, could he, if he's not set up right in the parking lot of Pickle Pond, I mean, could he be right there on the street, and there's nothing that we could do about it anyway? That's what I was getting at with that question.
I don't believe you can
I don't
do
believe
that.
you can sell off the street. You have to be part of a, whether it's Main Street or some event, you have to get permission from that group, so.
And most of those that have those, I mean, Hiller's used to have one in their lot. Those are normally private businesses that allow that on their lot. And then, of course, they have to get the food license. I guess I'm not real sure what the vendor license is. I don't get that because they can't go wherever they want. It's always tied to an event. So, yeah.
No, I mean, I know Jay personally, and I have no doubt that he would be respectful of the area. And I guess I'm playing devil's advocate. I'm looking way in the future, way beyond where I probably should. But I mean, let's say we do the 200 block, and people want to do food vendors there. Are we gonna say no to them as well? Because that would essentially be the same. Would that be in the same realm?
I think it is, but I think, at least, Jane, what I think you and I are talking about is being consistent in
Yeah.
developing a policy if you're gonna do that. I don't think we should just let somebody start up and then worry about what could or might not happen. I think you gotta look at a policy for, see what other communities are doing with that, or, you know, I
And maybe
think.
doing them like on a case-by-case basis. I mean, 'cause I'm okay, I like it when they come, like Hub City Ice Cream did that. You know, I like it that they have the respect that they say, you know what, I'm gonna check with the Parks and Rec, and that they bring it before us. So, I mean, at this point, unless we get, like I said, a huge flurry of them, you know, talking about them on a case-by-case basis, it seems to work, you know, at this time. But I know what you're saying, Tom, and it would be nice to have, I guess, an established, you know, to have something to go back on.
Yeah, because there's
I
gonna
understand
be,
what you're
if you
saying.
allow one, there's gonna be more for different events. I can tell you that skate park's probably gonna have one, blah, 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 you know, and Greasy Park, or you may, well,
I
they
think for
got.
those concession stands from like St. John's, when they did it, they didn't make the amount of money that they thought they would. They did it one season, and it was a lot of work for what they made. They did do it. Yep, they did both at Columbia
Recall.
and
They pulled away
the ball
from
fields.
Kelly, didn't
They
they? That's how
did,
they
they
did
did,
it.
yeah, but they didn't make, I mean,
Right.
they just didn't. The other thing with Pickle Pond is it's such a tiny little parking lot. I don't know where you're gonna put him. I don't know where you're gonna put him without, you can't put him in front of the window, cause then the attendant can't see the ice rink. So I'm thinking that's where he's thinking he can just back in, right in there. So,
Because my feeling is we just need to be consistent across the board and adopt some kind of policy. Because my concern is that other people, really, it's gonna like snowball. And they're gonna say, I wanna go here and I wanna go here. I don't know. I could be wrong.
there's so much money to be made in that.
But still, you're right.
I agree that we should have maybe a universal policy if we have an overwhelming epidemic of individuals coming to us requesting to sell concessions. I think Rich is right about letting small businesses, you never know where this might go. It might actually turn into a real positive. It might turn into a negative, and that's where we have to pull back the reins and say, okay, let's just develop a policy. Coke pulled the machines out of there, they weren't even making money. So the reality is, he'll probably get permission, well, he probably can't put it where he maybe thought, and he probably, to be realistically, won't sell as much as he'd want. Or he may just say, it's just too cold and I don't wanna go and do it, I'll figure out a plan B. And we don't really put a lot of stock into what happens. But if we get, and I will let you know if we get a lot of requests for vending, I mean, I'm gonna bring it to you guys' attention, but this is the first one I've had to deal with. I know I haven't been here for very long, but the last one was at St. John's at Columbia in 2010, so been 5 years. Oh, Hub City, I think we had one a couple years ago, so one every 3 years, and they never really come back after their first trial year, like, that's a lot of work, I don't wanna do it, so.
You also have to look at if they need power, things like that too.
Right,
You know,
well,
if there's
just
gonna be a
tell them this is
cost.
what we got, and-
Well, yeah, but there should be a cost there, you know,
So it sounds like this discussion is leaning towards an action. Rich, did you want to bring a motion forward on this? Or do you want to let this go until he comes back to talk to us?
Well, I
It-
don't.
it's up to you.
because in a month in Wisconsin, it could be 50 next.
Right, I mean, I don't even know.
Bonds go way down. thank
Oh,
you.
it's gonna open.
That's a month from now.
Because of this.
I don't know if I should make the motion, because I think my motion is not, it's gonna fail anyway, so maybe make it in the positive. And, you know, I would, because my vote would be to say, you know what, let him, if he wants to try it. I think, letting private business, I think he's gonna find that he's not really gonna make it, it won't be worth his time. But I wanna at least give him that opportunity, maybe to give it a try, you know, so, what do you think? I mean, I guess,
Well, he's
I
not-
could make I guess I'll make a motion, not exactly sure how to word it, but I would make a motion, that, I guess this committee, is okay with it, for lack of better terms, is that reasonable?
For this ice skating season?
Yeah.
Do we want
Thank
to
you
come
for
up with a
this.
spot to put them
I was gonna.
Well, he would have to work with Ben. I mean, that would have to be
Right.
part of the motion, to work with Ben on a
And we could
place.
just-
Okay, and
you
that
don't
would-
need
you know what-
you don't need to put that in your motion, you just say he can try it for that's a given. We're gonna tell him where he's gonna put his thing,
Yep.
because
Okay.
Ben's gotta get in there and he's gotta maintain it, people need to get access there, we gotta have emergency access, and so, yeah.
Sure, for this season.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Justin. Yeah.
It's the season.
Okay.
I would second that.
Okay.
Okay, so motion by Rich, second by Nick.
I think, you know,
More
again, I'm
discussion.
gonna vote against it, but,
Mhm.
I don't disagree with what Rich is saying. I'd love for people, but I agree with Kelly, they're not gonna make any money there. But there's also insurance issues, you know, there's more than what we're just looking at. They've gotta have insurance on the vehicle, on whatever they're gonna put there, liability insurance, you know, and things like that. There's just more to it than what we're thinking, I think.
Any other discussion? Questions? Okay.
We could go on for quite a while.
Yeah, we could.
I know,
yeah.
I know.
Well, the Packers aren't playing, so. But, so all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Okay.
So is 1, 2, 3, 4,
43.
yeah. I was a nay.
So I'm saying yes, there were 3 yeses and 4 noes.
Well, I think that's the first time we've ever had a vote like this. That was close.
Luckily, it was for concession sales.
Those controversies don't come up often at
We could
Parks
have
and
made a
Rec.
vote for that park, and that would have been a very interesting news headline.
All right. Thank you. So we are on to reports.
C.
What did I miss? Oh, sorry about that. Item C, building and shelter policies and procedures.
Has any questions? The main focus of even looking at this was, some of it was as we started to look at that we needed to clean just a couple things up. But the main thing is, currently, right now, we take a $100 damage deposit for the Wildwood Station. The number of checks that our finance cuts and the number of the paper that we push with that $100, that we've talked and we've said what we really need to do is they need to pay their fee. They need to pay the $90, the $180, the $360, whatever it is. And that then from there, we retain amount of money. The old policy had a percentage that because it was $100, we retained $25 if they canceled the building, whatever the term is, and then $50 if it was the 60 days. So what we're saying at this point in time is we're just making it a dollar amount. It's $25 or it's $50, and it comes out of that $90 or that $180. And then they, when they come in to bring in a key or pick up the key, they have to give us a $25 deposit for the key, which once they return the key, that $25 will go back to them. So there's no longer a process of finance cutting them a check, everybody who rents the facility.
Yeah, so that $25 doesn't need to be deposited, moved, general ledger to this account?
Correct.
Okay, so are you thinking that they're gonna write you a check and?
It can be a check or it can be cash. Those are the two, that is correct.
There will probably be, probably some eyes opened at the end of the year when, it comes time to revenue numbers. And they're gonna be like, whoa, what happened to the Park and Rec's rental revenue numbers? Because we're gonna be cutting that $100 deposit that went into revenue every time. We're no longer deposit $100 every time, just to process it out every time. So we're just really trying to eliminate the waste of all of that money. 99.9% of the time, we always give back that $100 deposit. And so just be aware that the budget time, there'll be the revenue numbers.
He's working.
Those will be lower. All right. So,
Maybe I'm not understanding.
yeah.
Maybe I'm not understanding this, Kelly. The first thing that comes to my mind, and I know you don't just about all the time give the $100 back, but is that if you take that $100 deposit away, is that when there is problems there? $25, people might just say, that's the only thing that I'm thinking of there.
They're gonna receive an invoice. How many times have we?
It doesn't happen
What
often.
do
No.
you do with explain to me what you're doing with the 20, you're gonna give the check back?
When they return the keys. However,
Why
if,
can't you do that with a $100 check then?
Because it's way far ahead.
and it can't,
The-
I mean,
the
they could come in
$100
with a
is-
$100 check and give it to us that day too. We just felt, when we surveyed other communities, $25 was their fee that they were collecting for a key, to get it back.
But I think the $100 is due within a certain amount of time that you reserve it, and a lot of these reservations are done a year ahead.
Is that what I thought it had to be, like if you saw something, Ben, that wasn't taken care of, they could forfeit that $100. Am I reading that wrong, or?
The $100 is taken within 2 weeks of making the reservation, and that then sits.
Okay.
When they come in to pick up the key, they pay their $90. And when they return the key, then we return their $100 deposit through finance. A check has to be cut. So I think what you're saying is, why are we only taking $25? Why aren't we having them leave us $100 when they pick up the key?
I guess what I'm looking at is, let's say they damage something, so there is nothing that you do now then? What would you do if somebody did damage something, or they left it a complete mess?
Typically what we've done, correct me if I'm wrong, but we either retain that $100 or a portion of the $100, depending on them.
saying.
Yep.
Or
See, that's what I'm
if it's
getting
more
at.
than that, we invoice. We had somebody who, a lamp came down from the ceiling. We just invoiced them and they paid it. I mean, they sign a thing saying they take responsibility for the building.
Maybe it's okay,
I don't,
Our goal with this is to eliminate the waste. And the waste is to taking $100 and then shuffling it through back to the person. And it's a lot of paper, a lot of time for Kelly and her staff, and then finance, and then putting it in the mail, and then like, where's my deposit, where's my deposit? 99% of the time, they always, I think 99% of the people will be good, they're gonna clean it, they're gonna return the key, they're gonna wanna come back. If we start discovering issues, guess where we're gonna come? Back to you guys, and say, okay,
Right, that's
that
what I
failed,
said.
let's adjust, we're not,
Right.
it's not succeeding, we, maybe you have to bump that back up to a $100 deposit, like Tom said. But right now, I still believe in the goodness of people, they're gonna do the right thing. We figured 25 is fair, they'll come back. And the reality is, if they break anything, if they damage anything, it's gonna be over $100.
This day and age, probably.
Ben's gonna have to send some of his guys out there, they're gonna look at it, I mean, even a light's gonna be over $100 by the
He
time.
sends his biggest guy out there to threaten to break down.
Unfortunately, our guys are kinda small.
I guess, having heard that, I guess I can go along with it, but I just thought that was leverage. I wasn't against what you were trying to do, I understand that.
Yeah.
Even though
right.
he wants to play with the budget.
And you're right, Tom, this might not be a big enough carrot to hang in front of them to clean it and maintain it, then we just gotta up it, up to 50 or 75 or 100. But we're gonna try with 25 and make sure, believing that people are mostly good.
And that they'll return the key. I mean, you're gonna keep your key, or you're gonna come back for $25 to get it back. I think most people are gonna, I mean,
So, right, that's the deposit piece of the policy. There's, do you want to address any of the other changes?
Just real quick, the Ludwig building. We are no longer renting the Ludwig building out. I mean, so there's no reason for a policy for the Ludwig, and then it also got removed from the fee structure, as well as the senior center. Obviously, once the community center comes along, we'll have to add to the policy and put something back in here. But for now, we're not renting out the senior center. So that was the other piece that got removed. And then just for the Oak Ave and the fairgrounds, again, it's the key deposit. It's not collecting that $100. They have to pay their $185 fee up front versus the $100.
When's the last time we raised these fees?
It's probably been, we talked about raising them to $100, but it was, we just, I don't know. We didn't budget for it, and it was just.
I always harped, like when we'd get a water increase and you wouldn't raise it for so many years, and all of a sudden you get a double-digit increase. People can handle a small increase rather than waiting a few years and then get nailed on one, you know, I'm just, you know, and I don't know if now's the time. I personally would like to see it raised every year or every other year, just a little bit, but.
Typically, we go in front of the committee in December to talk about rate increases, and I'll make a commitment to the committee that in this December, I'll get a history of when things are raised, and then any new proposals to be taken in front of you guys this December. So usually, annually, it's always that December meeting. We bring fees and charges back to you guys.
Sounds good.
Well-
So then, just on the fees and charges, the proposed, for the Aquasize, we're currently running, we run an Aquasize class that meets 2 days a week for seniors in the morning and 1 day a week for adults in the evening, and they're both $25. This was when we were only running a senior Aquasize class. So, our Bronco League team fee has changed. Part of it was we were collecting a $25 forfeit fee and then reimbursing them all $25 for the forfeit fee. So we've just gone to say, let's just try and see how we've never had to take money out from them. So I'm just saying, let's collect the $65 and then we don't have to reimburse them the $25 forfeit fee. Under the senior center, we just removed the rental costs for the rooms, and we added the exercise classes that, I think we talked about at the last meeting, that were ADRC exercise classes. It's a arthritis exercise class and a Tai Chi class that are being offered at the senior center that the city is now doing. And it's interesting to see the growth in the program. I think we've had 18, 19 people doing the exercise class, and about 10 that have been showing up for Tai Chi. So same instructor stayed with that was teaching for ADRC. So really, people haven't seen any difference. And then the other two that we're removing is the damage deposit and adding a key deposit. And then we also added that tent fee was in there, and we changed it from a tent fee to a stake charge for both the tents and the bounce houses. So.
Only when required.
Right?
And then I added the unoccupied times that Justin talked a little bit about with the runs, that would be in there, so. And the whole building, we removed per room because it's just one room, so. And added a banner fee. We do charge a banner fee if they want to put a banner on those fences there at Wildwood. There's a north and a south fence that we charge a $10 banner fee that wasn't on ever, so that's all.
Not a new cost, not a new charge. It was being charged before. It
Correct,
just
was being
wasn't,
charged,
it
it
wasn't
just wasn't
documented.
on
Yep.
And I had somebody
On the fee
call
schedule.
this past fall and was very confused, and I'm like, we need to add it, so.
Gotcha.
I'm sorry. So we do have a concession stand fee.
There is a $27.50 per year that, like, American Legion gets charged, the soccer program gets
Okay.
charged, the chaparrals gets charged to use our
The
concession stand.
concession stands
To
as
use-
their building, as a building.
Correct, to use our concession stand building for them to run concessions. Mm-hmm.
$27?
$27.50.
Okay with that.
Sure you don't want to raise those rates, Justin?
I think it was.
Pretty cheap electricity, man.
27%?
It was a $25 fee that got raised
Sure.
I'm trying to help
10%
your buddy.
and became $27.50.
The reason why I looked at that too is just maybe if there was this influx of truck stands,
Oh.
maybe it becomes a fee that they have to pay in order to park in our parks. If we have a fee for concessions.
Yep.
Justin, what are the parameters for determining whether the unoccupied fee gets charged? Is that like nobody books the other half?
No,
You,
it's-
how does that work?
Let me explain.
Yes, please.
Friday night, a wedding comes in and decorates, but they're not coming back until 4:30 in the afternoon to use the building. All their things are in there, so from 10 to 4, they have to pay the unoccupied rate to keep their things in there.
It's usually a request by the vendor.
Yeah.
They'll request to reserve it either for decorating or just occupying it because they have stuff in there so they can do their stuff before they actually arrive for their event. So we don't assess that, that's a request by them.
Okay. A lot of times it's decorating, that kind of thing.
Correct, it's
Yep.
usually they decorate on Friday night. They're not
Yep.
using it Saturday morning. Now, if a vendor is coming in or somebody's coming in to set up their cake or do something, then they need to pay the full rental fee because somebody is using the building during that time. But that's typically how it's been used.
Do we need a motion just to approve?
Yeah. I have a motion to approve the new policy and procedure as written. I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Okay. Any other discussion or questions? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? That's the way it usually goes.
Back to normal.
All right. Now I can go on to item 6, which is reports. Let's start with the Zoological Society. Item A, Tom?
Yeah, we're busy, getting ready for our, believe it or not, getting ready for our zoo store. Rotary will be out of that building. I talked to Dan Connect in a few weeks, and I talked to House of Heating. They supply the furnaces for Rotary, and they're gonna let us keep them in there so we can heat the place, so we can lay our carpet down and get our racks and so on and so forth in there. So we'll be doing that. Animal adoptions, this is the first year that we've had action like this. It's just unbelievable, the requests that we're getting for animal adoptions. I want to guess we've got 20 this time of year, and we always started that in the spring. Now, we're not putting them up, of course, at the zoo. But it's really going, all out. Now I got,
So maybe the increased traffic at the zoo and the increased peak of interest going on with the bears and.
the bears, because
Yeah.
we're not gonna do the bears anymore.
Right.
With the animal adoption. That was a good point that Justin brought up, that people to get recognition on the bears, that was $1,000 they had to give towards that. So we're certainly not gonna do one for $50.
Right.
And put up there.
Yep.
But, let's see. Yeah, that's, we got a meeting next Thursday, and looking forward to it, and we got some things in mind. I know we're gonna be working with the park staff to putting signage down there in the zoo, is where the exhibits are that we picked up from Henry Vilas, the idea we picked up from Vilas, and I know Floyd's involved with that, and so we'll be sitting down with that.
You want to talk a little bit about the transition from Katrina leaving and then?
Go ahead.
Yeah, we had a long time as a zoo educator slash zoo assistant, zookeeper, and she's taking on a new job. She's leaving. Her last day is January 20th. She'll be going down to Indiana, Illinois? I don't-
Indiana.
Indiana, southern part of Indiana. So we made a decision to keep the position but change a little bit. So we're gonna hire 2 people that are pretty much doing the same job. They'll be assistant zookeepers, but part of their job will also be doing education. So we're gonna be pushing them to do as much education as we can. A lot of the education is funded through the Zoological Society, so we're still gonna ask for that funding. But rather than having one single person doing it, we're gonna split it, so that way, if there's a lapse, an individual leaves, there's not a huge impact to the operations. That way it can be shared by the other person until we get the position filled. Right now, a lot of times that's on the one person, so whenever there's a transition, that's a huge impact, because now the new person, if you're not having them in place, someone else has gotta learn it temporarily. Takes a long time to learn it, but if we have 2 people kind of sharing that role, that way hopefully we could increase education quite a bit. Part of our goal is to get into the schools. We want to get our zoo into the schools, and this hopefully allows Steve and his staff to get down into the schools. So with the assistance of the Zoological Society and their funding of that position, we might be able to hire 2 people to share that responsibility.
And
Good plan.
We're also, I mentioned last time about Wild Wednesdays have changed somewhat. We're not doing spring education. This will be the first time in many years. We're not doing that. That was a week-long event in the spring, and schools were coming into that. And you can't get a presenter that commits to a week like the one that we had. And nobody would be in that price range either, even if you could get them. You can get somebody for a couple days, but Dino from Stevens Point from Nature's Niche decided not to do that anymore, so we lost out on that. Although we're not gonna lose any education, we feel Wild Wednesdays, we're adding a couple Wild Wednesdays in the summer, and then we're having a couple Wild Wednesdays at night, so the people that are working can come down there. It's 2 or 3 nights, I'm not sure offhand. The girls got that all scheduled. I keep my nose out of that, thank God. But I think this year,
what they say too.
yeah, they do say that. This year, Katrina did schedule them, but we have to get sponsors for them, yet she wasn't able to do that. So Justin and I have talked, and I think we're gonna help with getting sponsors, sitting down. But I think after that, the educator position then would take that over.
Yeah, the goal would be, our goal would be to kind of have that person not only build on what Zoological Society's done with the Wild Wednesdays and increase it to evenings, but also maybe take the concept of Wild Wednesdays and incorporate it year-round. Primarily, that's only a summer activity. We have buildings, we have facilities that we can use for more education year-round. So instead of just doing it in the summer, it's year-round, and then these people can continually program year-round. And then I know part of the goal for Zoological Society is to raise money. and hopefully one day they have a nice home and a zoo store down there that they can really concentrate on fundraising and not worry about Wild Wednesdays and who's running it and whether they're getting sponsorship. We'll still do the same things. We're still gonna raise money for the zoo, and our funding source will be the Zoological Society, because they're a nice group to work with.
Okay.
I think that's a great idea to do the evenings. I know the library itself has loved the development of their Tuesday night at the libraries, so I would say avoid Tuesdays.
Yeah,
Because
it'd be
they,
Wednesdays, so.
they do that year round, and they've just seen a good group
Yeah.
that always comes. So I think that's a great idea, just to get every family member able to come in and enjoy it with their
And
family.
I know Ally and her family have been to, I think, have been down for Wild Wednesdays,
And we did enjoy Zoo Crew as it lasted.
as it lasted. Well, and that's part of it too. We're eliminating Zoo Crew. It was only a $5 fee for the year, and they would meet down at the zoo, and Brandy would handle that. She did an excellent job. Being a teacher helped tremendously, but the numbers kept going down. And I think what Justin's talking about, the education and getting the schools involved, or going to the schools, I think is just a huge plus. And recycling is still going strong. I didn't see any of you guys helping when it was so cold the other day, but I was out there. I was thinking of you. Make sure that you drink lots of soda and other refreshments that come in aluminum cans, copper and things, if you've got copper containers,
That's Tom's pitch.
there you go.
Can't pitch the zoo store yet, but
No.
in a couple weeks.
Oh,
All right.
it'll be coming, though.
All right.
Get ready for it.
Good, okay. Let's move on to item B, recreation report. Kelly?
Library Community Center had a beam raising signing event. I don't know if anybody, I think there were some of you that were there. And my understanding went very well, and anybody that I heard that was there said it was a very fun event. So that's the only thing I have in Library Community Center, unless, Justin, you have anything else?
We don't have a meeting scheduled. We should get something scheduled here quickly to we're currently working on floor plans for the new community center and where our new office is going to be located. So we're still just working on floor plans at this point.
Winter spring brochure went out to the public. I did bring copies if anybody hasn't gotten one yet or needs one. Tennis Racquetball Center up and running. Contracted time is down. However, our drop-in daily use, we've really seen an increase in that. And some of it is just from a couple people that are using it, like during the day. So the usage for that has been up. The first session of tennis lessons for the winter started on Tuesday, and then we had a class again today. We will have a hitting clinic for middle schoolers and high school starting on Monday. Pickleball is still happening at Oak Ave Tuesday nights from 6 to 8, because that's the only night we don't have volleyball. And then Thursdays they have an afternoon from 1 to 3 p.m. I do also know that they have been using the UW. They have also been offering pickleball, so people have been playing there as well. We did hold indoor open skate over the Christmas break from 1 to 3:15 every day except for Christmas Day.
Did you
Well, the
see
kids
an
were off.
increase, like Justin mentioned about the weird weather we had this year, that we couldn't put ice outside? Did you see an increase?
Our
in the
numbers,
open skate?
our numbers were good for
Yeah, I
open
bet.
skate. Yep, our numbers were good, so. And then open gym and swim is again being held, 5:45 to 8 for the pool, and the gym is open from 7:15 to 9. And early bird lap swim and aquasize are also being held at this time. Ice rink, as we know, we started this week flooding, so we'll see. I have been having trouble with staff, the people who I've used in the past. Like this coming up weekend, everybody's swim meet or they're someplace else. So I probably will not have staff there until starting Monday. But I will hang a sign that states that the ice can be used, the warming house just is not open. So if they're ready tomorrow to go. Adult volleyball leagues continue to run. We had 3 teams that were interested in adult basketball. Could not get all of them to either agree to do double headers or play and have a bye. After I talked with a few of them, they just said, there's several churches that have been open Monday through Thursday evenings for pickup games. And then the other ones that I contacted that have in the past just said, you know what, my kids are too young, I can't do it anymore, or I just want to do the one night a week. And Stratford is the league that they have been going to on those Sunday nights, so.
Unfortunate.
Yeah, yeah, because once it dies, it's much harder to get it back up. So, but they all did say, let's try again next year. And that's all that I have.
Any questions for Kelly?
I have one.
Yep.
Is the warming house rentable? I feel like we've talked about
It
this
depends
before,
on,
but I
yeah.
can't remember.
We've had school groups that have rented it during the day, but per se, when it's open to the public, it's not like we close it to anybody who wants to come. We have had youth groups that have used the ice. I just had a call today from somebody asking, you know, can we take a segment of it and play broom ball on it? And it's, as long as you bring your own equipment, and as long as there's not 75 people on the ice, we would allow. But you could show up and find that, oh, there's a lot of public skating going on, that we wouldn't then, we'd say, nope, you just have to join in with a public skate. So it's really not rentable unless you're doing it off hours. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Anything else? All right, we can move on to item C, the Parks and Zoo report. Ben?
Before the snow got here, we were able to do a few things in the parks. Boy Scout troop built a new shelter at the fairgrounds for their storage, so we reused that. We brought it in, fixed it up, painted it, and took it out to Gracie Park. So there should be some storage out there for soccer balls, etc., for youth soccer. Pickle Pond, we just talked about, should be up and running shortly. We were able to get into Brain Park and do some buckthorn removal. You'll still see some of the piles sitting there. We did get rain there in December, so we were able to pull stumps out but not remove them. So hopefully we'll be able to get back in there and clean it up a little bit more. The fairgrounds, I'm trying to get some quotes for rekeying some of the buildings there, trying to get a master lock system. My ring there is about this big, full of keys, so.
Especially the brass. I'll take this opportunity since Ben mentioned it. So we're going to approach the Fair Commission about splitting that cost, and we've also approached the Central Wisconsin State Fair about splitting the cost. So we're hoping to split it 3 ways between the city, the Fair Commission, and the fair itself. So far, I think the fair meets next week to give a decision, and I know the Fair Commission meets early next month. So I just take that opportunity because there's 2 individuals in the room that are on the Fair Commission that, if you have any questions, let me know. So go ahead, Ben.
Okay. Let the key out of the bag or whatever. No. Down at the zoo, things have been going well. We just recently today actually programmed a new gate, the vehicle gate that's by the Ludwig building. That'll be on a remote system now, so our staff vehicles will be able to open and close basically like a garage door. But since October, since the bear exhibit opening, we've been getting a lot more vehicles wandering through the zoo. It's a safety concern. We got foot traffic and vehicle traffic in the same location. So hopefully that'll help. That gate will be closed. Supposed to be closed now.
How would you address, just thinking like when we had trick-or-treating in the zoo, in an emergency for an ambulance or something that would need to come, or it could be Fall Fest, or is that pretty much the only access to get into that area?
There'll be a lockbox. There's a keypad there as well.
Okay.
So there'll be like many of our buildings, we have a lockbox that the fire department, and the police department has access
Okay.
to. So there'll be a key that they
Yeah.
can go boom, and then
Good.
the gate opens. So hopefully that'll be an improvement for people coming through the zoo that may be confused or lost or not wanting to get out of the car. So that just got done. We did just this week, we euthanized one of our female elk, old age when the cold came. We decided it was time, so the vet came this week and we took care of that. I guess that's about all I have, unless anybody's got questions.
Chris and I are getting a little nervous over here,
Yeah,
starting to
right.
get up there in age, that's inevitable.
How old?
Yeah, it came from Henley Vilas. I don't think we have an actual birth date on it, but yeah, it was on the radar.
Yeah.
We knew it was coming, so.
Circle of life.
Okay. Any other questions for Ben? I just have one relating to the bear, which everybody in the state of Wisconsin now knows, even Newt Gingrich, right?
Who was there?
Yeah.
Who was there?
What's he doing
It's the
here?
second
Anyway.
I know.
If somebody wanted to contribute, are there still needs for funds? And are you still running the program that would, give people an opportunity to have a plaque or, a tile?
Yeah, we've just recently, I think, accepted 2 donations last month in December of $1,500 and $1,000 towards the bear exhibit. The project is not complete. I mean, it's very close. There's some minor issues we need to deal with when Mother Nature allows us. But any contributions towards the bear exhibit will also go towards improvements to the zoo. Part of the area we want to do is a zoo store and restrooms and a cougar exhibit. The cougars are not in a good situation. They're just on some concrete, and that's what Miss Grizz was on, and we made a conscious decision to improve that. So now we're going to do the same with the cougars, and we're going to make that next step. So any contributions towards the bear will actually go towards the improvement of the animal exhibits and the actual zoo itself.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? All right, we can move on to item D, Director Report.
First thing, the Hackman Field Storage Building. Those construction plans and floor plans are complete. We'll be seeking approval from the Board of Public Works next week, and then have that project completed by July 1st. So that's good. That's been a long time coming. That was put on the back burner because of the bear exhibit. Now it's back on our radar, and hopefully have it completed by July 1st. We're also working with a contractor to finalize the zoo maintenance building plans. Our goal is to move the zookeeper's operations into one building rather than being in several buildings. So he would have his kitchen, his office, his workshop, his garage, all of his operations in one building to increase his efficiency in operations, and then provide other opportunities for other groups in the buildings that they'll be vacating, like the Zoological Society and the restrooms. So we are currently working with that. We hope to have the project complete in 2016, but we also are realists and know that it might be bounced back to 2017. So we'd like to get it done as soon as we can, but we know how long it might take. So Hardacre Park has been officially turned over to the Park and Recreation Department in December. Our department will share the maintenance of that park with Shallows and the street department for this year, and then we'll see what 2017 brings for maintenance, whether we will continue doing that or whether we'll contract out maintenance with Shallows. There's not a lot of maintenance there, but snow removal will be an issue. But we put fencing up on January 1st. That fencing will stay up until the snow is melted, then we'll take the fencing off. But the biggest maintenance will be the planting beds, going in and weeding and deadheading and cutting out old plant material and installing new plant material. So, and of course watering. Holly Avenue. In front of you, you have a map. It's not the triangle one, it's the square and a rectangle one. Those 2 parcels highlighted in red are on South Holly Avenue. Holly Avenue is located over by Mid-State Technical College, so it's on the very west end of town. We have a park over there called Weber Park, and it adjoins this parcel. I know that this committee, not so long ago, probably in November I think it was, actually said it would be great if someday we could adjoin Weber Park over to Holly Avenue on the south. Those recently have become available for sale. We would like to pursue the purchase of those 2, as well as the property to the west. The property to the west is actually in the township. I don't know what town that would be. I'm not familiar enough. That's Cameron or Marshfield, town of Marshfield probably. I think that's in the township. It's actually not in the city, so we'd have to do some extra hoops, but We would like to purchase it. I'm not saying what we purchase it for. I don't think we want to get into those details. I think that's all in negotiations. But I am trying to look for the green light from this committee to go to Public Works on exploring the idea and then coming back to the Board of Public Works or this council on the actual purchase price and options. I don't really want to go down the road of finding out what options are out there until the committees and the board say so, because we have potentially other groups that might be interested in contributing to it, but I don't want to go to them and say, hey, would you want to partner with it if the council or the Board of Public Works or the Park, Recreation, and Forestry Committee has no interest in pursuing it. So our goal would be to kind of connect the trail over to Holly and then continue on 8th, and then maybe one day kind of go in the back of that woods and then connect to the UW Arboretum and connect that trail piece all the way over to Lincoln. So that would be fantastic. And this is a key piece to that connection. Otherwise, you really can't connect. You actually just dead end to the south and you have to go back up to the north. So this is kind of a critical piece to a trail connection.
Wow. Cool.
I know. Very, very cool.
Yeah, yeah.
I know.
He was itching, I'll second that.
So I've been saying for 10 years that we need a right-of-way through there, or, you know, some type of easement that we could never get from the owners. But, so can I just ask, when you mentioned that you'd like to buy the parcel to the west as well, that's right here?
Yep.
Okay, up to the river, is that right?
Yeah, I guess that'd be negotiable.
Okay.
Right now, you just can't quite make that connection with just the two kitty corners touching
Yeah.
each other, so, we would figure that
Yeah.
out. That current property owner is the same property owner that owns the other parcels,
Mhm.
so I'm sure figuring out negotiating and all that would make sense. Reason, we could just buy that one small square, we could buy that square and be fine, but then we have probably a resident that might live to the south, and then you can't build anywhere else to the south or to the east, so you might as well occupy them both and avoid any type of conflicts and try to run your trail away from the other property owners or the other homeowners.
Right, because you get a little close to this.
Yeah, we want to avoid
Yeah,
any
okay.
issues.
Yep. Did you make a motion?
If you allow me. If you allow me.
I
Yeah,
would.
if you allow us.
I would embrace it.
The, I would make a motion just before I do, though. This property, at least the smaller parcel, has been for sale for some time in the past. It's not that it just has come on the market. It's been for sale with a realtor for years, and has not moved. And
It brought to my attention.
and has not moved. So, consider that in negotiations. But, with that having been said, I'd like to make a motion that, the Park and Recs Committee is, is for the, acquisition of the South Holly and, West 8th Street properties, in addition to those, adjacent properties to the west.
I would second that. So motion by Chris, second by me. Any other discussion or questions for Justin on this? This is a surprise, a nice surprise. So, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? That motion carries.
All right, my last item is another piece of property. It's at 8th and Hemlock. It's the other map I gave you. It's the triangle. We talked a little bit about ice skating. Ben, were you here when they were ice skating?
I was not.
Kelly, were you here when they were ice? Kelly, this was one of our. He was one of our original ice skating parcels. Currently, we maintain it. We plow the snow. We cut the grass. But that's it. There's no playground. It's not very large. It's not in a good location. I would like to explore the idea of maybe communicating with the school district, because they use it for parking for their football games, and maybe somehow they would have an interest in it, or maybe the property owners adjoining it might be interested in it. Maybe a developer to build some houses might be interested, but somehow assisting our department by not having to maintain a piece of property that really has maybe some other potential uses. And maybe we find out there are no other uses or there's no value for it. But currently our staff has to maintain it and take care of it. And we do take care of quite a few properties in town that don't really serve a purpose, but we also know that you probably have no one else that's gonna take them. So this one has potential, I think, that maybe the school district, maybe the other adjoining property owners, maybe even a Habitat for Humanity type project. I don't know. I just think there's other potential uses for that piece of property.
I did mention to somebody from Habitat for Humanity, although I would like to be able to sell it because that might pay for the other one that we're.
Right.
So, but yeah, I agree. It's the maintenance that you have to do on it. I mean, it's not necessarily a lot, but you're not using it for anything.
Right.
Plus that structure, that's been in the budget, demolish that warming house for quite a while. And nobody's interested really.
Are you looking for a motion?
Yeah,
to
I'll
move
take a
forward with
motion
that?
to take it to Board of Public Works.
I'll make a motion.
The A Street and Hemlock Park to Public Works for
Second.
sale.
Nope, go ahead.
Motion by Ally, second by Nick. Take it to Public Works. All discussion, anybody? Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Is that it, Justin?
Yeah, no, I kinda made a change to the agenda, and I just put Parks, Recreation, Forestry Committee on the bottom, so it's all encompassing, so.
So you're not on the spot.
Oh, so the
Yeah,
chair, there's no
so-
more chairman report.
So you,
I thought maybe you did that. You
So-
said I don't need to.
John's always like, I don't need to have a chair report, I don't give me a report. So now, I mean, is if anyone has any public announcements they wanna make, or any other items, I just figured I'd make everyone included.
Yeah, thank you. I would like to mention that the City of Marshfield is looking for input, and that would be this Saturday. There is a comprehensive planning session. These things are a great way for the committee that has a vision for the community and also for the public to come forward and voice their opinions, voice their ideas on what they would like to see in Marshfield 20 years into the future. So I think that's a fantastic thing. I know I'll be there on Saturday morning, and I'm hoping some of the committee members can get there as well. We have a stake in our community in the Parks and Recreation. But if a member of the public also would like to attend, the city would love your input. You can contact Josh Miller. Josh can be reached at 715-486-2075. Again, I take this opportunity. This is where seeds are planted and visions are realized. So I think it's a good opportunity.
Not until, will not go past noon.
Yeah,
but you say
it
for
begins
2.5.
it begins at 9 a.m. And Josh has said it will not go past noon. So it could be 2 to 3 hours. Town hall style meeting. So, and that meeting takes place at the Wildwood Station Pavilion. I think we made them rent the whole thing too.
I was gonna ask. And I thought I won't say anything.
Don't get me started on that.
Since this is now called the Parks, Recreation, Forestry Committee, anybody else have any questions or discussion or public announcement they'd like to make?
Do we
Okay.
have to add cemetery on there?
No, not yet.
Trails
I haven't
and
been directed.
cemetery.
Do you,
Trails and cemetery.
we'll talk about that after the camera's off.
Okay. We're gonna go on to item 7, which is our next meeting. It's scheduled right now for Thursday, February 11th at 5:30. So everybody good? Okay. Let us,
One thing there, John, I met with
Yep.
a school group today. They're gonna be, hopefully come to this meeting next month. But they have their goal right now is to bring a honeybee exhibit to the zoo. So there'll be a group of 4 girls that potentially will be here to explain that more, but for future agenda.
well, we'll put them on the agenda. Thanks.
In the store, right?
Did anybody else have
We're gonna go
anything
through
for
lots of
future
stuff.
agenda items? I think next month we were gonna talk a little bit about some of the fun we have with the zoo store and lights and all that. That'll probably be on the agenda next.
Yeah,
Next.
February's getting a little busy.
Yep.
We have Rotary. I want them to come and present, and
Yep.
then we're gonna hopefully talk about some long-term
Yep.
options and plans for the zoo store
Okay.
and restrooms and their operations and how we can help each other kind of move into the future. Plus, we have more zoo store with the high school kids coming in and things like that. So
Okay. So, long meeting today. That's what we get for skipping a month, I guess, so.
Okay.
We're on to item 8.
it's all zoo.
Can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Motion to adjourn by Jane,
I'll second.
second by Ally. All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. We are adjourned.
Good.